started because
Right.
I'm gonna get hit with a stick if I'm in here too long.
And we're live.
And I am actually recording.
You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect. We're this season 2. Me and Nathan are watching network television because me and Nathan generally don't watch network television. We are watching 2013's The Blacklist. We're watching season 2 of The Mentalist. It started in 2009, and season 2 of Miami Vice, which started in 1985. I mean those seasons, not the shows. So
Yeah.
hopefully that came across. Anyways, as always, we start with The Blacklist. We have season 1, episode 4, The Stew Maker, parentheses number 161. Original air date October 14th, 2013, NBC Monday. When a witness in the murder trial of a ruthless cartel boss disappears, Red leads Liz and Wrestler on a search for the Blacklist number 161, a gruesome hitman known as the Stew Maker. Showrunner John Bokenkamp, written by Patrick Massett and John Zinman, and directed by Vincent Massiano.
Nope. And this, by the way, is based on a real guy.
Oh, okay. Huh.
The stew maker is a real person. Go into the episode, we'll talk about it, and then we'll go down that side road. I don't want to open it with like some weird history of the Mexican drug cartel.
Yeah. This is probably like the episode I took the least notes on because they're not throwing a ton of stuff at you like they do in other episodes. And it's actually like very just long takes of stuff in this episode. It's still a pretty, you can tell like, oh, somebody's a fan of Michael Mann.
Yes, somebody liked the what was it? Manhunter.
Right. Yeah, Manhunter.
They even got the same actor.
Yeah, it starts off with a guy with a dog at a hotel, and then he goes into his room and he undoes his like teeth and hair, and hey, it's Tom Noonan.
Yeah.
The guy who played the killer in Manhunter. He's got a bag full of stuff and chemicals, and he like covers the room in plastic. I think this is actually like post Dexter, but I mean, there's other stuff where people cover the room in plastic, but I think it was probably Dexter did it a lot, so that was more famous for that. But yeah, and it keeps kind of cutting back to this room. Liz is going to like some evidence locker or whatever, and she's looking through evidence, but she isn't cleared for it.
Right.
And also Liz is supposed to be like testifying at a trial for an old case that she was on her last position.
Yes, the Hector Lorca trial. He's a nasty drug dealer. International drug dealer.
Yeah. Aren't they all? I mean, I guess not.
No nice ones. Where's the nice drug dealer? Well, I don't know.
No, I meant international. I mean, I guess you could have like, we only grow local and sell local, but
yeah.
You know, your co-op drug dealers.
Yeah, the money we make here stays here and helps our community. Our heroin is manufactured on site, employing Americans, creating an American jobs, and putting money back into the community.
Using grandma's secret recipe.
Yes. Grandma came from the old country where they made heroin by hand. Our heroin isn't built upon an empire of human skulls and pain. Our heroin is here to enhance jazz music and other rock and roll endeavors that might happen. It's just a picture of like grandma holding a plate with needles on it. Grandma's heroin, not the evil heroin. Where did heroin start? It's been around forever. But yeah,
I mean that's gotta start like India or something like that, wherever poppies are grown.
Yeah, because they didn't really have that stuff, and like,
because like it's gonna first start off as what's the painkiller drug that you use from poppy seeds?
Opium.
Yeah, it's gonna start off as opium and then just kind of became heroin somehow.
Yeah. Look it up on YouTube.
The FBI won't raid your house.
Yeah. Do intensive searches on how to make illegal drugs on the internet. What could happen? As long as you use our VPN, you'll be fine. Yeah, if we actually had sponsors, and we wouldn't have sponsors if we encourage people to look up drug manufacturers on their VPN. They'd probably be like, "This is not what our product is intended for." Yes, it is.
Yeah, we'll have a back-to-back ad placements, one for a VPN, the other one for crypto. It's like
Yeah.
it's all about masking drug acquisition and distribution.
Oh, you can straight up sell. Well, some of these guys have podcasts. They sell like fake weed. It's like weed that's legal in 50 states, but but it doesn't get you high. It's like, well, why are you buying it then? It's like, oh well, it gets you high.
Yeah,
Oh.
what is that stuff? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's some kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just nonsense. It's just hemp or something.
Yeah, basically. It's like, but it's basically like all the ingredients of weed except the THC, and which that's I guess what you want. I don't know, but anyways.
Basically, I think those arguments are targeted for people. Hey, are you living in some Republican hellhole right now where having weed is still a felony? Unlike the cool parts of the country where they don't care about that, they have real problems to solve. If you do, you can buy fake weed from us and stick it to the man by just getting a headache. I don't know what they're doing. Has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But
I mean, there's a drug guy, a guy who sells drugs. So.
As always, yeah.
Liz meets Red at a park. Red says that the court case is going to go bad, just because he knows the guy. They go to court, and we cut back to Tom Noonan, and he's just doing stuff with chemicals and dumping them in stuff. And then you see one of the jurors starts to have a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
and then they're moving the witness to a special room, and when they get in there, you see the actual marshals that are supposed to be there dead on the ground. So the U.S. marshals are fake. Then they inject him with some sort of drug. Now, Mr. Pena is attacked and or killed, and of course, pretty soon you find out he's killed. Then we cut to Red is selling Stinger missiles in Haiti.
Yeah. And they're talking about, oh, these are much better than the manufacturers. They're lighter, and yeah, he was upselling these white Stinger missiles to whoever.
The guy gets kind of mad when Red's on the phone with Liz, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And the guy lifts up his shirt to grab a gun. He's like, "You want some of those? We have better versions."
Yeah, it's Red's casual. Oh, you're gonna pull a gun on me? Great. Yeah.
He just disarms a situation by just not being interested in it.
Yeah, I'm not responding to your threat.
Then Red just tells Liz to move on from the case. There's this is just a dead end. It's and then we cut back to that hotel room again, and so these are out of sequence, the hotel room and everything else that's going on, and Mr. Pena is dead, and he's in this case, and then the Tom Noonan character is just dissolving the guy in a bathtub with special chemicals. He's wearing a gas mask, and he has his dog sectioned off in a special room, and he's naked.
He's covered in sores. Which I'm assuming has to do with being exposed to chemicals like that.
Yeah, either that or it has something to do with the backstory that Red gives out, but we don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought there was gonna be something why is he naked when he does this? And I thought it was gonna be something that the chemicals burn his skin. And he's looking for that or something. But there's also stuff about burns, but with his presumed backstory, but we don't know. And we cut Liz is back home, and then Liz and Tom are reminiscing about the date that she wrote down that she's looking into, and then he's like, oh, that's one of the who went on a date in Boston together. She scratched out something, so he just sees the date, and so it's so that it's oh yeah, she's oh yeah, that, and it's oh, what's this leading to?
It says Angel Station because it's something that it corresponds with the file she stole from the FBI.
Well, she didn't get to steal, but she got to see the box that's in. And she wrote down the information on it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because that guy's like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. And she just leaves.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just leave. You know, don't come back. Not supposed to be here. It's like, yeah, I'm going to follow up on this.
Yeah. Somebody walked into a secure area that's presumably has cameras, and she gave a false identity, said she didn't have her FBI badge. No one's going to follow up on that.
Yeah, I thought that whole concept was weird right at the beginning. Hey, I forgot my badge. Can I just go back and look while you're checking? Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to try that someday. It's like Area 51. Oh, yeah, I forgot my badge. Here's my name, my fake name. Yeah, go ahead and look at the Area 51 stuff. Whatever. Cool. Now I know that it was a weather balloon. Damn it.
Also wrote down that Red is in Liz's phone as Nick's Pizza.
Yeah, I saw that.
This is where we get the backstory. The stew maker is like some chemical expert who chemically boils his victims. Red is interested in bringing down the stew maker for some reason, but we don't know why. He's like, because he was telling Liz to like get off the case, like it's a dead end, but it's like, oh, all these people are disappearing. I think I know who this is.
Yep.
And the FBI tries to make a deal with Lorca, but he's more scared of the stew maker. But it seems kind of weird. And then they're like trying to transfer Lorca over to the Homeland Security as a threat, and then he gets ambushed by like RPGs and machine guns, and then Liz gets taken too. It's a completely ridiculous scene, but it's exciting. So
yeah, it's one of the worst, like a not so special effect of the helicopter exploding.
Yeah.
I was like, oh boy.
Well, especially like they kind of linger on the like clearly like fire plug-in like effects they put on afterwards, but it's like, hey, I mean, that saved time and money, and people didn't have to die for it, so what are you gonna do? So and then Red is going to meet Lorca, and then like Wrestler insists on going with them. He also says a word I never heard of before. He says, I need you to answer breviloquently.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's that? It means concise.
Yeah.
Short, concise answers.
Yeah, I've heard of brevity. But
Yeah.
He doesn't say brevity. He uses like almost a French sounding version of it.
It's breviloquent. It's like almost like eloquent and brief shoved together.
Breviloquent.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
I've just never heard it used. I mean, it's one of those things like, it makes him sound smart and snooty because that's the way his character is. So,
yeah.
I like this. Red rats out Wrestler immediately. It's like, yeah, he's an FBI agent. And they knock him down and put a knife to his throat. And then Wrestler like tosses the guy and then insists that like, yeah, I'm the inside guy. I'm getting Red all these passports for your new identity. It's like,
how do you think he got wiped off of, like APIS and Interpol and all that? And it's like, yeah, and Red's like, yeah, good job. This is what I was talking about. Quick.
Because either Red, it's like, it works out for him. Either Wrestler's dead or he gets to see them like lie convincingly. So yeah, Red's impressed by that. They have a contact with Lorca, but no one knows where Liz is. Or a contact through Lorca to try to find the stew maker, but they say they don't know where Liz is. And then they're back at they find I forget where they get the clue on the hotel room for some reason, and then there's like nothing in there, but they find the dog hair, and then Red takes the dog hair as evidence that they have like nailed to the wall, and he leaves with Dembe. Then we see Liz is being taken alive with a stew maker in some woods somewhere. And then Red is like conning his way. We find his name's Stanley Cornish, and through this dog tracking device he has. And then like also like it's like they have this like kind of dual thing where the FBI is trying to find their way to Liz one way, and then Red's doing it a different way, but they basically end up at the same place, but Red gets there quicker because he's more mischievous about it.
Yeah, he just lies to the Maryland like animal control board. It's like, my emotional support dog's missing, and the tracking chip, I lost the password or whatever. Could you help me and forward it to my new app? And it's like, you wouldn't think that I guess you could slide that by maybe back then. I don't think now they would, but it's like, oh yeah, sir, we'll help.
I don't know, I mean that kind of like hacking, like that's you just prey on people's emotions and empathy, and you'll get places sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Want to
there's
take
one.
a side note for the real stew maker?
What's that?
You want to talk about the real stew maker for a
Yeah,
second?
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a guy who worked for the drug cartels named Teodoro Cimentel. He worked for the Tijuana cartel, and then when they split up and had a gang war, he later joined the Sinaloa cartel, and he was known. He became known for running extortion and kidnapping networks in Tijuana, and any gangs or anyone that opposed him, he was known for drowning them in caustic soda. Um, well, let's see. Well, no, that was the guy. The actual stew maker was Santiago Lopez. I'm sorry. He was his right hand man. He was called the stew maker, and there's a Spanish word for it I can't pronounce. He said he dissolved over 300 bodies in Tijuana that way, and the Mexican army stated that because the Mexican army had to raid these people's compound, they were so well armed,
Yeah.
and they said that he had dissolved over 300 bodies, and the Mexican army, based on the volume of empty drums of caustic soda and chemicals found at the compound, they said, yeah, that's probably the right amount, because it took roughly 55 gallons to dispose of a body that way. And that happened in 2008. So there is a real stew maker.
Huh.
He's in U.S. federal prison right now, which is weird. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, that was it. It was just the. What was I gonna say? It's like, yeah, it's a real guy. It's just crazy as this sounds. There's people that actually did this.
Liz is awake and she's like trying to stall and talk with Stanley. She's in a wheelchair, so it's also reminiscent of Manhunter.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a scene where he has somebody like he's kind of interviewing them and he has them tied to a wheelchair. Liz is like profiling Stanley. Here she's doing like some mentalist stuff where she's just making guesses and then seeing what's right and then trying to. It's like, yeah, if I can just guess what your whole backstory is from context clues, like maybe you'll empathize with me and not kill me. But
right.
But he has no morals like that. So.
No, he's supposed to be like this complicated guy, maybe.
Yeah.
Has this weird past.
Well, yeah. There's like this part where it's like. He's like, they pay me, so I gotta kill you, and like they want me to make it painful. So I'm sorry about this, but I'm gonna shove this needle into like a bundle of nerves in your shoulder, just so I can say it's just so I can check that off the list. It's not like he's enjoying it necessarily.
Yeah, it's just I'm conscientious. Must follow these commands.
Liz escapes, but she's like under a sedative that will like paralyze her.
Yeah, he said it'll paralyze you, but it won't stop pain response. So
yeah,
when he's dissolving, people, it's like, oh yeah.
And so he's like dragging Liz back to the cabin, and then like Red shows up and he knocks out Stanley and rescues Liz. And then here's where Red tells a story that presumably is Stanley's background. But we actually don't know. It's about where it's like he was a farmer and like there was a fire and like killed his whole family or something like that. And then and then he turned to this as like restitution or something. Or
he became a dentist with this dark side.
And then I think he also gives him, or is he just chained up, or does he give him the sedative as well? Because he tosses him in the chemical vat.
I think he's just chained up, as far as I know.
Yeah, he tosses him in the chemical vat. This is where the FBI busts in, and Red grabs. Yeah, Stanley like takes before he kills people. He takes pictures of them, and then like sort of like what's ever left over from the chemical process. He kind of like has his trophies.
It's like teeth and weird shit like that.
Yeah. So he's not exactly like a serial killer. He doesn't have a type, but he's using, but he's got very serial killer tendencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a job. Like he's not. I don't think he's like freelancing killing people, but if he gets if somebody offers him a contract, he's really up for it. So.
Yeah. It's like, I'll do this.
Red grabs Stanley's. He has a folder of all these Polaroids of all his victims, and he grabs a picture of I think it's a young woman. It says number 79 and 1290. And I bothered to go back to the first episode. It's like, what's the thing they say about when they give Red's background? Like, what do they say about him? And it says in the episode, it says at Christmas of 1990, so 1290. Red was supposed to meet his family, but he never showed up.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who that woman is in the picture. Like, it's either his wife or his kid. Because we're always assuming that Elizabeth is his kid, but there could be something where it's like Elizabeth was a friend of his kid or something.
Yeah.
Don't actually know, but yeah, there's some connection between 1990 and Christmas and Red's whole why he became why he was, and this is a part of it. So it's something personal, but so I didn't like go and look up stuff because I don't want to be spoiled, so I just looked that up myself, and so now I'm just here guessing about it.
Oh, okay.
Liz tells Red he's a monster, and he kind of like reluctantly agrees. It's like, yeah. And then she's like, how can you live with that? And he's like, by saving your life. And then like Wrestler's like talking with Red, and then I think Lorca's presumably dead. We don't think we see him die or anything, but like Wrestler's like, yeah, you're annoyed by him, so you probably just killed him because he's presumably like on his plane somewhere, but he could be dead. But we don't see him die. But I don't know, that he's kind of the guy who's playing Lorca is kind of a famous character actor, Colin Clifton Jr.
Yeah, I've seen that guy.
Yeah. I mean, like probably most recently he's in Westworld. He's always like a buddy of the one guy who's always killing everybody. The black hat character.
Oh, okay.
But he's in a bunch of stuff, so I could see him coming back, but I could also easily, it makes more sense for him just be dead, but we'll see. That's the thing with Red, where it's like he's dealing Stinger missiles because he's keeping up appearances. So, if Lorca is still alive, that could be to keep up his appearances. Then we have like the very end is like Tom surprises Liz with a getaway to Boston, and he hands her a brochure, and it says like Angel Station like hotel or whatever, and this is like has a gun with that has a connection to the gun, which is just funny because it seems like is Tom doing this on purpose? It's like, yeah, here's the clues, honey.
Yeah, it seems very. It's like, oh, okay, there's something really strange going on.
Yeah, because it's almost at a point. It's like, maybe you. I mean, with this show, you could see some Manchurian Candidate stuff popping up. So that's like, maybe Tom doesn't know. Maybe he's like, he's just he's a secret agent but he doesn't know, because that doesn't seem outside the possibility of this character or of this show. So,
yeah.
So maybe he's like unknowingly leading Liz to the evidence of who he really was or whatever. Or he's clever and like this is like some weird, this will serve two purposes.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of the end of the episode. I don't think we get any like stuff with Cooper or with like dealings of like kind of backroom stuff between the FBI. And there's no more surveillance stuff we see on like, people watching Tom and Liz. We don't get any more of that. So just kind of more about the Stanley character and the stew maker stuff, so it's more of like a serial killer episode. So
yeah, it's very focused. There's not like a lot of a few connections and discoveries are made, but it's not like the whole episode is like just dedicated to that.
Yeah.
So it seems to be a very oh, I don't know how you'd say it. It's a very focused episode.
Yeah. It's compared to the other ones, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the only extra stuff you get is like, oh, this Angel Station was a hotel, and Liz and Tom have been there, and then that picture that Red took. That's the only kind of like extra stuff they tacked on. So,
Yeah, and like I said, I'm trying to see where this is going to come together. But again, I don't watch or read ahead, so because that would ruin the show. But there seems to be, like, boy, they're sure drawing a lot of pictures. They're putting a lot of pictures on the board, and I hope this pays off some way.
Yeah.
I've been burned before, lost.
Just create more intrigue. Like, are we gonna follow? Are we gonna like solve this? Like, no. Then the show's over if we solve the intrigue.
We're in the intrigue corner. Just keep painting over and over. You can't get out of the corner, but make it more intriguing. What could this possibly be? It's like, we don't know.
I don't know. Is there anything off the top of your head you can think of where it's like something that actually like came to a conclusion that it's like they brought everything together and it worked?
I'm trying to maybe like Battlestar Galactica, the relaunched one.
Yeah.
Like that had a very esoteric, weird, spiritual ending, but it like they had only been teasing that. Like they weren't like, oh, you're gonna find this place and live in happiness. No, they never said that. So I think like that's the most recent one I can think of that paid off. Trying to think of what else like really worked. Like where it was like, oh yeah, okay, I get this. There's not a lot of them. Not a lot of like really long form stuff like this.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you can think of like movies and stuff where it's like by the end of it, it's like, oh my god, they pulled it off. But it's like when you're talking about like a show that has like a 7-season run, and it's like thinking that far ahead is like way too hard sometimes.
Well, this kind of gives me some vibes of like, remember that Netflix show? It was called The OS or whatever. And it was just like, what the hell is this? It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then because like it turned out, it's like, oh, it all started in Russia. And then it's like in some abandoned area of suburbia in the U.S. But there's like experimentation on people's minds, time travel, all kinds of weird shit. But it never paid off. It just got canceled is what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Because it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally it's like, well, we've ran out of ideas. And it's like, well, we've ran out of money. So this is a good place to part ways.
Because I'm trying to think, like, even like The Wire, I feel like the last season like didn't fit. It was like, but that's not necessarily. But that's not necessarily a show that like gave you mysteries like day to day and built the mystery and then solved it. That was just kind of it's like, yeah, this is our coda for this season.
Yeah, The Wire was a portrait of troubled people in a terrible situation. And the situation was chipping away at their souls. But The Wire never tried to do anything different. It's just they couldn't be like, well, we can't end this obviously because in reality it hasn't ended, and so it's like, yeah, we're going to give it a conclusion, but it's not going to be good. And like The Sopranos fell victim to that too. It's like, well, where does this end? It's like silly because it's a story about vicious murderers and gangsters who have kind of a lovable personality sometimes, and you're like, what happens to these what happens to these people that would be interesting to end the story? It's like, oh, somebody's going to get cancer and die, or it's like all the normal stuff, or they finally go to prison. It's like, well, nobody wants to end on that because they like Tony Soprano too much because he's only killed like 150 people or been responsible for the deaths of so many people in this show. It's like, well, we can't have it end sad for him. It's like, oh, okay. So they have they kind of go outside themselves. It's like remember the hospital show Saint Elsewhere?
Yeah.
Remember that famous ending where it was all a dream? It's like, yeah, you totally walked outside of your envelope and became something else, and nobody liked it.
Well, that was actually more specifically, it was like the imagination of an autistic kid.
Or yeah.
So it wasn't exactly a dream.
Yeah, okay. It was like not a dream that was had while you were asleep, but it was a freaking like fantasy.
I can't remember. But the end is like it's all an autistic kid's head or something like that.
Yeah, it was weird, and people didn't like it. They weren't like, oh, that was meaningful. So it's really hard to end. It's the hardest act to play.
Yeah, because like, well, I mean, the thing with like these shows, like you don't know what season you're going to end on, unless you got like an upfront, like we're ordering 6 seasons, but like almost nobody does that.
Yeah, nobody gets that.
Well, I mean, no, there people do get that, but that's for like weird. And I doubt they do it anymore. But I remember like that one. There was a Charlie Sheen episode or show he did for FX.
Is it anger
And
management?
yeah, and they just ordered like 100 episodes and they just started shooting them. And like, yeah, they just basically it's like, well, this is the order, and they just rolling them out. Like they don't care. They're and like it's an awful show, and like they did like a couple of those, and I think they canceled both the shows, but like they still got all the money because they put that was in the contract. So,
Yep. So I get paid. I don't care what happens.
and I think it's
Tiger blood.
yeah. Well, I think that was the thing, like with because I think FX had all the 2.5 Men reruns, and they're like, and it was making them money, but they're like, what if we just basically took a similar formula for 2.5 Men, and they just got 100 episodes, and we ran our own reruns, and we don't have to pay anybody for them.
Right. They're just paid up front.
Yeah, which made some sense until like streaming really took over, but
Yeah.
now nobody really wants 100 episodes of something. We'd really rather have like 10 concise episodes.
Yeah, have 10 high quality episodes instead of just 20 episodes of, crank, which kind of makes sense.
For our second show, we have The Mentalist, Season 2, Episode 4, Red Menace. Original air date, October 15th, 2009, CBS, Thursday. The team investigates a dangerous biker gang in order to gather information about the death of the attorney who represented the gang. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by Leonard Dick, and directed by Noberto Barba.
Okay.
There's another classic. The joggers find the body.
Yep. I would never jog in California because of this show.
I don't know. Like Law and Order, that's joggers find the body all the time too. See,
Well,
that's
happens a lot though.
yeah. It's real life, yeah. Because like where you throw somebody off the beaten path to hide the body, and like who's gonna find it? Like the person jogging around these weird beaten path.
Yeah.
Or off the beaten path. And yeah, that should be another sub show just called The Joggers, and it's just the people who find the bodies.
Just their stories.
Yeah.
Who was the guy? It was like the representative was sleeping with this gal that was on his staff, and then they found her dead in Washington, and it was joggers that found her. And it was like a big story in the country for a long time, and like the actual people that found her got so harassed by the media, like they sued them. What was her name? Is Chandra Levy or something? So I know they never found out who killed her.
Yeah.
Because they thought for sure it was like, oh, this congressman did it to hide the affair. And it's like, no, then they think it was a homeless guy, and then it's like, oh, we don't know, which is that's always a weird ending for a crime, like especially a high profile murder.
Well, once you pull the homeless card, then it's pretty much done. It's like, well, we don't know. We couldn't find the right homeless guy to shove into prison to quiet everybody.
We couldn't like directly make a deal with him. Hey, you don't have to sleep outside. Can't be drunk all the time in prison, or maybe you can if you know the right people.
Here's a good toilet wine recipe.
Yeah. The best Pruno.
Yeah, so they're looking at the body, and Jane's making a bunch of reads about the guy based on the things he's wearing and stuff like that. And then he has a Bluetooth earpiece on, and he grabs it, and he's able through voice commands to call a number on the phone because the phone's nearby somewhere, but they don't know where. And then he gets the name as Gordon Hodge is the name of the body. And then he says he's from the CBI on the phone. Once once he gets the identity, he kind of passes off so like Lisbon could tell the lady that her husband's dead.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, this is Jane from the CBI. I got calling it. What's your husband's name or something like that? It's
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with him? It's like, oh, this is for you.
Yeah, we cut to credits. We come back and then we find out that he was a lawyer for a biker gang named the Sinner Saints.
Yeah,
Um,
and that was his only job.
yeah, he just worked for the
Exclusively their lawyer.
and he made lots of money.
Yeah.
Which kind of seemed like if that guy's making that much money from just one gang, the gang should probably have have a lot cooler stuff.
Yeah, they should have like helicopters. Just like if one lawyer will get you that far, what if you had like a law firm on your side? Because sometimes on TV they think if people have lawyers, they're like immune from prosecution or something. It's like they almost make it seem that way. It's like, it doesn't work that way.
Also, it was always kind of a weird thing with like lawyers and doctors too, where like their side stuff, where it's just they just learn how to do a process and like how to like learn stuff, and then like they'll end up like doing side business where they make millions of dollars because they created something like in their garage or whatever. It's like, you're not an engineer. It's like, yeah, but I know how to learn. So
Yes, but I'm smart. Well, remember that was a Sherlock Holmes thing, because Moriarty was a physician.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what Holmes said. Like, the most evil people are doctors that turn evil because they're like the smartest people, and if they turn evil, you're in trouble. And then that carried through with like Hannibal Lecter he was a doctor and what are they called, psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So he was like a medical doctor and he knew people's minds. And then there's always like that is like, those are the ultimate bad guys, especially people that are supposed to heal others. Like if a lawyer's like, you got to be just as smart to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But it's like they're always seen as bad guys, even when they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but doctors are ostensibly supposed to heal and help. And when they just turn their minds to evil, it's like, oh, it's the ultimate like betrayal of what they were ever supposed to be. And they worked a long time to be that thing, and then they turned evil. Yeah.
Or you have what's that code called? The
Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the seemed interesting for the new. I haven't actually watched it yet. They have the new. Oh crap! Now that's the Charles Bronson movie where he's like getting revenge.
Oh, Death Wish.
Yeah. They have a new Death Wish with Bruce Willis where he's a doctor who goes out and kills people to get revenge.
Oh, nice. Bruce Willis is a doctor. That's interesting. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I never heard good things about it, but I thought that was an interesting dilemma. It's like, oh, he's breaking the Hippocratic Oath, but it's a revenge movie with Bruce Willis, so.
So it's going to be good. I don't know. Bruce Willis can do subtle sometimes. He just doesn't. Because he's just like, he's there for the money.
That movie seems like the last kind of legitimate production he's been in, because he's been in.
Okay. So they actually tried to make a.
Yeah, I mean, it came out like years ago. I forget, like, I think that Las Vegas shooting happened, and then they like kind of put the movie on the
kibosh on that.
Yeah. Put it on the back burner.
Maybe people won't. They think this is cool, or they'll think it's too cool.
Also, so they talk about like Hodge got caught with drugs a few weeks earlier, so they're thinking maybe he got killed because he got like turned to like get to, but then it ends up like he was able to get off on the charges, like it was a legal search or something like that. But like these gang members, they might have killed him anyway.
Yeah. Let's kill that goose that laid the golden egg.
Lisbon and Jane interview the gang. They end up, the kind of leader is Vaughn McBride. There's a woman yelling in the parking lot. It's kind of a weird scene where it's like Jane's trying to run his stuff on like the tough biker guys, but they're not really having it.
Yeah, because he tells the one guy, it's like, why are you always trying to intimidate people? It's like, this is a persona you wear. It really hides a creative, sensitive nature that you have. And the guy's looking kind of like he's nuts. And then Vaughn's like says, oh yeah, that's what we know him for, his his sensitive nature and his internal dialogue.
I didn't write down the guy who plays Vaughn McBride, but he's a prolific character actor. You've seen him in hundreds of things. So.
Yeah, he looked like, oh yeah, this is one of the TV actors, and also because he was a good actor, which seems a lot.
There's also Constance, the biker chick, and she's involved somehow, and they end up in a bike chase with where Lisbon and Van Pelt come back later on. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
because I like that basically like they basically run her off her bike, but well, I mean they kind of like cross her, like make a crossing with a T, and then she falls off the bike, and then they say like, "Hey, you're trying to hurt us." It's like no, you was
actually.
And then for some reason, like Lisbon is like impressed with Van Pelt with her driving skills, but
yeah.
I also have a scene where like Rigsby and Cho are checking out Hodge's office, and there's a scene earlier on when they interview the wife. Rigsby is like saying stuff like, yeah, these bikers are all scum and stuff like that. And then Lisbon's like, hey, that's unprofessional. It's like, we let Jane do that because he's Jane, but not you. But this is where we find out that Rigsby's dad was a biker and a criminal, maybe. Because Cho makes a comment like where Rigsby says, like, didn't you read my file? And then Cho says something like, it just said he was a big criminal.
Crime,
yeah, he didn't say which one, which I don't know if that was true or not. So I just accept it as true for now, because sometimes like that seemed like something Cho would say offhanded as a joke or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned there's like a lot of weird Choisms. It's like he's always going to try to say like unexpected things. It's like, wait, is that true or is that just Cho having a Choism? I like Choisms, but it doesn't necessarily add, it's like, I just got to guess now. Because Jane's not the only one lying, damn it.
Hodge's office is ransacked and "Burn in Hell's" written on the door.
Subtle.
We also find that Constance slept with Gordon, and then like Gordon's wife knew. Guthrie she was the lady that came into the parking lot that ran away, and she's the main biker guy like murdered her brother, but they like the lawyer got him off for like self-defense.
Yeah.
So that's why she's after the lawyer. The Jane Mobile is back.
Yeah, he's driving his Citron around.
And he goes to like talk to the wife of Hodge's wife, but then like his kid's there. And so he ends up talking to them, and they end up having he ends up kind of teaching the kid how to drive, and is also just like a subtle, so he can get more clues about the situation. And immediately when he does this, I just wrote, so the kid did it, huh?
Yeah.
This seems to be
Jane takes the most interest in that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the one who did it.
Which I don't know. They make that like at some point it's like, well, maybe the wife did it, so they kind of divert it a bit, but then it ultimately ends up being that. But it's just because we're following the show and analyze it, so we just know to look for those things.
Yeah.
Cho and Rigsby are staking out Guthrie because they let her go to see if she like will give them more evidence, and then like the biker gang show up, and there's like a standoff that's where like all the bikers show up, and he's like, and then I don't really know what the bikers are gonna do. Just
let's commit an obvious murder.
Yeah. To hide a murder that we're ultimately not responsible for.
Yeah. Remember that the Jane's planted this doubt in the minds of the biker gang that there's.
Oh yeah. He just says like, oh, you don't want to know who the informant is, like, oh, okay, and then he puts that in all their minds now. So, now they're extra. They don't want cops around, and now they have cops, and they have the idea that there's an informant amongst them. So now they're extra trigger happy for everything.
Yeah.
The biker gang runs the go away. They come in the next day. And Jane like went through Guthrie's house like sneakily. He's saying he was just like looking for coffee or something like that, or tea.
Yeah.
And you know, she's like rightfully is like, oh, so you searched my house illegally? And he's like, nah, I was just looking for tea. What's the other thing he does? Oh yeah, there's a fun thing like he just tells Guthrie what's going on. He's like, oh, we're staking out our house hoping you lead us to something else. And then Lisbon's like, don't tell her that. It's like, why? Well, oh yeah, we were just randomly here happenstance.
Yeah,
like,
that was kind of funny. I remember that. Just happened to be here, you know, there's no reason. Or we hang out outside of Sacramento.
And I did spot that Jane put something in the trash, but I thought he just put a coffee cup in there or something. But then he had another coffee cup, so then I should have just picked up on this. But he gives Rigsby the idea to look in the trash because there might be something in there, and then he looks in. Then there's like the special cuff that the lawyer had, that Hodge had, and so then they make that link, and so they arrest her and bring her back to the CBI headquarters. But I also have the son and the mother there at the same time because Jane just wants to see them arrest an innocent person.
Egg sociopathy, which he accuses someone else of in this episode.
Yeah, and so then like the son seeing that someone innocent is going to be accountable, he gives it up and said that he killed his dad because he was apparently talking to his mistress on the cell phone while yelling at his son while his son was trying to learn how to drive. And he decided he just had enough. Well, they get outside. He throws the phone. Then they're outside the car, and then he pushes his son on the ground. And there just happens to be a rock nearby, and he hits his dad with the rock, and then he's dead. And then he doesn't know what to do.
Hits him more than once.
Oh yeah.
Gets on on top of his dad, astride him, and then just starts bashing at him. I think one or two more times.
And then like
anger in that family. You know?
Well, and then he calls
I
up.
Never imagined myself in my worst days ever beating dad with a rock. Yeah, this will show him.
And then he called his mom, and like she helped like cover it up. So now she's in trouble too. Now they're both going to jail.
Accessory to murder and lying and hiding evidence. Yeah, 20 years in prison. Or not, I don't know.
Yeah, hey, this is a Jane case. It's like, how'd you get this thing? Like, oh, we intentionally arrested the wrong person to get them to admit to it.
Yeah.
You're free to go.
I found where the real murderers planted the evidence, but I wanted to arrest the wrong person and put her through hell. But then at the end of the show, he helps her out. She's mad that her brother was killed. He does do the right thing.
Yeah, there's extra bit to the show, and it's like, aren't we done yet? And like they go back to the biker gang, and Jane does this thing where he like kind of hides outside and gets the guy to come outside, and he hands him an envelope of money, and then the bikers turn on him at the end and presumably kill him, but we don't know. It's just like, but the Guthrie's there.
It's just
like
one of those things that's tacked on. It's like, oh, suddenly the smartest criminal in the show becomes stupid. It's like, yeah, I'm going to meet with you alone, and sure, hand me an envelope. You know? Like, oh yeah, this guy did everything but be stupid until the very end.
Yeah.
His arrogance got him. He thought he could handle Jane.
All right, yeah, they just wanted to wrap that up to make Jane look more like a hero. So.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it was my favorite episode.
Nah, it was fine, but it was
fine.
I wouldn't say it's a bad episode, but it was an episode. So.
Yeah, it didn't stand out in my mind, really. I watched it, and then I found myself like trying to remember details.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah.
And then we have our third show. We have, Season 2, Episode 4. So these episode runs, I'm going to say it's based on the Peacock one. So like if you go to Internet Movie Database, this will be episode 3, but that's just how it'll go. Because we want to extend this so we have more shows towards the last episode or last time because if we did it a different way, the last episode would have been one show.
Yeah. Yeah, because they don't exactly have the same number of episodes.
Yeah.
Miami Vice started off with a double episode. We just split it into two, so we wouldn't be like, well, that's the thanks for tuning in for 15 minutes. We'll see ya.
Yeah, the last episode would just be the last episode of The Mentalist, and then like goodbye. Because not necessarily every show adheres to like the 23 episode thing.
Yeah, especially with these shows, because we're going 10 years and then almost 3 decades. Yeah, okay.
Hey, season 2, episode 4, Out Where the Buses Don't Run. Original air date October 18th, 1985, NBC Friday. Crockett and Tubbs stake out a drug dealer and an investigation that is being helped along by an ex-cop that seems to know a bit too much about the case. Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Douglas Lloyd McIntosh and John Mankiewicz, directed by Jim Johnson. Also, this... So like I got it wrong in like the and it's maybe still wrong, but in the early shows of this show, where I'd write down the writers as like basically the first 3 names on the Internet Movie Database thing on like the lead page for the episode. But you have to like click on like to get everything, and then actually see who says teleplay, and like whoever's teleplay by, that's what I write down as the writers now, because it'll put like that Yurkovich guy on every episode because he'll be accredited because he's the creator of the show on every episode. So I'll have him like writing every episode. This one has like 8 writers on it because there's like 3 people with the story by cred, and then there's the actual people that wrote it.
Okay.
Interesting. I forgot like one of them wrote the story by was Joel Sunrow, and that's why I used to write his name too, because he was like the executive story editor, so he didn't really write it, but he edited all of like the episodes. And I was like, why do I know that name? And then I was like, I know it because I was writing it at the beginning, but now I know is like I looked him up, and like that guy went on to create 24. Which is interesting now because there are now like international 24 television shows.
Yeah.
There's 24 India, which has like multiple seasons, and I think it's done in Hindi. And in 2020 there was a 24 Japan.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, because he's the creator of 24, so he gets tacked on all these different versions of it too.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I've like vaguely heard. I've heard of the episode title. So like based on the episode title, I've heard people talk about it. I assumed it was gonna be something different, where it's like they were gonna like go to some backwater town in Florida like that doesn't get any kind of like police jurisdiction. Nothing to do with that. Out Where the Buses Don't Run is just a phrase to say someone's crazy.
Yeah. It just sounded cool because you didn't have to you didn't say you didn't have to entitle the episode "A Few Bricks Short of a Load," you know?
Yeah. So we start off with Teenage Wasteland on a beach. There's kind of this effeminate skater guy, and I don't know if effeminate's like the right way to say it. That could just be the style at the time, but he has kind of high shorts and he's skating around. He's being very fancy about it. He has a bandolier of cassette tapes.
Yes, which I've never seen.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's cool.
Hey, that looks cool. Yeah. We find out he's Manuel, and he's a dealer, and he deals on skates.
Manuel Skates Santino.
There's also Little Richard is preaching on the beach.
Yeah, Little Richard is providing spiritual guidance for everyone.
And then someone else is also watching Manuel, and then Crockett and Tubbs bust Manuel. It's kind of this funny scene because like one of the church ladies ends up beating him down with a book, and then they just arrest him. They're like, "Thanks, lady."
Well, but in this, Crockett has ESP in this too.
Yeah.
Because remember, someone's taking pictures of him with his back turned, and then he suddenly turns around. He doesn't see anyone, of course, but he's like, "Would we know if somebody was watching us?" Like him and Tubbs have this weird conversation about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of introduces paranoia, which is kind of a theme of the episode. So
yes.
It doesn't really make sense, but it introduces paranoia. So, then they got like they're back. They come back from credits, and in Castillo's office, and then just a guy shows up with pictures of Crockett. Just, it's like, oh, do they know him? And like, they absolutely nobody knows who he is. He just comes in like he's a character on the show already that we all know.
Yeah.
It's funny because then Castillo's like, who are you? Get out of here.
Yes, this is played by character actor Bruce McGill, who's been in everything.
Yeah, he's literally in hundreds of things. So.
Yeah, he does a good job in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they give him a weird position because like the thing about this episode is that it's very goofy, but you're not supposed to take the goofy as fun. It's actually sad and dark.
Yeah. And it gets really dark at the end. Like, it just, boy, and this is why I love Miami Vice.
Yeah, because he just seems like, oh, we hired a comedian to play this cop, and he like does all these silly, funny voices, and it's like, but it ends up working overall. But like when we first come across it, it's like, well, this is a wrong casting. But actually, Bruce McGill is like great at doing comedy and seriousness. It's a weird thing, but it's sort of a disconnect, but it ends up being like a part of the theme.
Yeah.
It's Hank his name's Hank Weldon. He's a former Miami cop. They have him be a retired cop, and I was like, he's kind of too young to be a retired cop. And I looked up his age. At the time he did this, he was 35, but like they make him look older, or he just looked older.
Well, and also he, retired is a kind of a pejorative term here because he actually went crazy.
Yeah.
And so he might have got like,
well, his partner
20 years and you can retire. So.
Yeah. Well, his partner is like still working, but he's like in like federal department or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was funny. It's his partner is the guy, a very famous actor too,
David Strathairn.
Yeah,
he's also in hundreds of things.
I just remember him from The Expanse. He played Ashford.
Oh yeah.
As soon as I saw him, I was like, "Oh, is he going to do that weird accent?" It's like, "Oh no, yeah, that's right." It's totally right.
So we have Weldon here. He's introduces like Tony Arcaro. He's kind of Arcaro. Yeah, he's like the boogeyman of drugs. He's like he introduced heroin to Miami or cocaine to Miami, and they're like, yeah, he's died a long time ago, and they're like, no, he's still out there. And then Vice kind of have a meeting where they're trying to figure out like if they should trust Weldon, and like they kind of look up some old news footage where it's like where the Arcaro gets out on a technicality, but then he goes missing the next day, and then it's like, well, then he's dead then, right? And, I also clocked there's a plaque on Trudy's desk that reads "Big Booty Trudy."
Oh yeah. Yep, that comes up a few times. Not just the plaque, but the name. Yep.
Okay, yeah, because I'd never noticed that before, and I was like, well, I hope that's like, yeah, I hope it's not just something like the cast like this will be fun, and then like the actor just has to deal with it. I hope she's like owning it, and like that's the thing. Like, no, put it on there. That'll be fun.
No, that's kind of a humor that comes up when they're doing prostitution stings.
Yeah.
That's like kind of her like nom de guerre is like, oh yeah, because she wears clothes that are like she doesn't wear normally when she's a cop. She wears clothes that are way too tight, so that's kind of a running gag.
And she'd be ahead of her time. Asses weren't in then, so it was all about big
I know.
boobs.
They show these women on the beaches now, and are
80s and 90s long butts.
These guys are like, hey, what's going on? It's like, oh no, these are not hot women. These are just women with eating disorders. You need the mucho grande.
Yeah. This is where they go to the Weldon's partner. They go to his place, and he has like he has a picture of the bus, but he doesn't want to talk about it. And like it's very weird. But they find out that Weldon was like medically discharged and spent time in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
And then Weldon's outside, basically like, well, did you get what you wanted, guys?
And he's like sitting on the trunk of Tubbs' Cadillac. It's like, man, are you having a picnic on my car?
And then they go to Weldon's place, which is just kind of like a garage with like, or yeah, it's a weird
Place
place.
where crazy people live.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Weldon has a secret room in the back with a special computer. It's
I
crazy.
love the special computer.
But it's not really the computer. It's just like a program he has on a floppy disk.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They treat it both different ways. It's like it's both the computer and the program. But like if you destroy the computer, apparently it's done with. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it didn't really get. It seems like this computer is just like some special AI computer that will put stuff together and predict crimes or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Which you for the show you have to immediately destroy because then you solve all your problems.
Cop police unions like, we got to destroy that thing.
You're gonna be out of job.
Well, and this movie is like, because this Weldon is, or this show is like, Weldon is such an eccentric character. Like, remember Tubbs and Crockett are talking on the boat, and Tubbs is like, I'm having dreams about this guy now.
Yeah.
And Crockett's like, what? And he goes, yeah, like in color. He's like, you dream in color? Like, there's all kinds of weird, but I can understand why they had this dialogue. Just like the thing with Crockett knowing people were taking pictures of him when there's no way he could know that. Is like, this is about like madness and obsession and like some of the positive side effects that can come out of it. Like you can predict crime and you can know things, but it's like it's not a normal way of state of being.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Everyone's expressing something abnormal in this show. The main characters.
Yeah. Well, because also that's the thing. The kind of the dilemma of the show is like, well, it's obviously this guy is crazy. You see this part where it's like he goes into crazy mode where he's obsessed, and he kind of comes back out of it. You don't know, like, well, did he stop being crazy now? It's like you don't know. It's like was this just like his weird sense of humor or sarcasm? And you don't know. But also like it's like, all right, this guy's crazy because they talk about this. He links all these guys together and they just go to this restaurant to see what's happening. He's like, and he tells them like, this guy's going to get assassinated. The guy gets assassinated.
Yeah.
and they arrest him because it's like, how would he know that? And
that's a crime computer.
That's the thing.
Commodore 64.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, they know he's crazy, but he's also, everything he said is coming true, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some guys assassinated Costanza right in the restaurant with, like, he has like just like a 22 pistol at silence, but it's also like kind of like strung up and tied to the guy in some weird way. Yeah. Which I'm sure they got that from somewhere. It's like, yeah, this is what real assassins do. Yeah, so they arrest like Weldon because everything he's saying is happening, and so they think like, well, in a way he can know these things if he's like on the inside or something or knows this stuff.
Yeah, because I think he's like because he's acting so insane, and because he was a vice cop in this particular vice squad just like from 10 years earlier or whatever, it's like, oh, he is orchestrating this in some way. He's the danger.
Yeah.
Not the invisible drug kingpin that no one can find.
Yeah, then you find it's Lorraine. It's a special AI crime program.
Oh yeah.
Because like because Tubbs took the floppy disk out of the computer and he's trying to like get the info off of it, and it's like this. But they're trying to guess the password, but like it's kind of this fun thing where it's like he's left some like dialogue to the like, he knows what's going on, and then but like I kind of always read it as like that's what Hank kind of like or Weldon, or it's the same thing. Yeah, it's Hank Weldon. That's what Weldon like put into the computer, but I think we're also supposed to figure that the Lorraine is an AI, and so it's writing this thing itself or something.
Yeah.
And they don't spend too much time on this stuff. It's just kind of a ridiculous thing to have in the background, but it's sort of the drug tabula rasa that only Weldon has.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going to like, so he says that there's going to be a drop off at this place like on the water. And so they set up this sting operation, and they're just like, I don't know what these are. They're just like stilt buildings like off the beach.
They
I
had a
don't.
name for them. What do they call them? Stilt huts, or they had a
Oh,
name.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, they don't seem to be like you. You don't live there. You just kind of like park your boat there or something. That
Right.
they're very weird. There's tons of them all over the place. But I was where like, Crockett's got an og for the stakeout.
Yes. It was cool to see him like, putting a magazine in that. It's like, oh yeah. I mean, those were introduced to the Austrian army in '78, so it's conceivable that they were here.
I mean, that's pretty new to
Yeah.
TV and stuff. Because I remember the first time I ever saw it in like cinemas and Die Hard, and that's like 3 years later after this. So,
Yeah.
but it's just it's just like you always got to give somebody a new weapon because I'm like everybody else had like had like an AR-15, and like he just has to be slightly different.
Yeah. The only gun ever banned by coming into the United States by a president. Do you know the Steyrs were banned by George W. Bush, right? Or
No.
yeah, George H.W. Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah, they banned them in 1989 because they what was it called? I don't know. The drug dealers were using them essentially.
Oh, okay.
And then now you can buy them all day long because
Yeah.
all those laws got thrown out. But they're like $2,500, and it's like, oh, if you want a semi-automatic rifle that fires, 5.56, there's much cheaper options, and they're just as accurate. It's just like space gun.
Yeah. Because that thing still has like it's a bullpup, but it still has a huge barrel on it. So it must be like a 20-inch barrel on that thing or something.
Yeah, I don't know much about them. I've seen them in stores, and
Yeah.
hey, let me look at that, and I've held them, and it's like, this is awful long. Like, I know the barrel can be 16 inches, and you don't have to get special paperwork.
Yeah.
I don't know why the barrel's so long. But these were notorious for like weird muzzle devices you could put on them. Like that was one of the things with them. Like you could put all this weird shit on the front of it. I don't know why you would, but you could.
They also had integrated scopes on them, which now they're different, where you can put whatever you want on it. But
yeah,
but that was unusual for the time to have especially for an army to have a standard scope on every rifle. So
yeah, they're an interesting. What is it? It's called the Steyr Modular Weapons System. I don't think any armies use them anymore, but they.
I think Australia uses them, but I'm not sure if it's their main one. But they just still have them in stock or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It's like it's for like the National Guard. They just give them all the OGs.
Well, Space Force.
Because like a bunch of people are switching over, like even the French are switching over to like that HK AR-15 that's piston driven.
Yeah.
So just because it's like, I mean that thing's still expensive, but it's just like, well, this is a super reliable platform that has a bunch of support. So.
Oh, now the reason that a lot of the armies are going over to the M4s is that wear and tear. They have very much longer life than any of the others. Because even the Israelis are starting, because they had the Tavor, of course, we talked about on the show a few times. But yeah, they're starting to switch back to some of those piston-driven M4s, American ones, because it's just the service life on them is super long. And there's so many spare parts for them, you just trade the stuff out. Yeah. Like if you introduce a whole new weapon system, well, that you got to introduce a whole new supply of spare parts and and plus you got to work out all the bugs. Because remember the AR-15/M16/M4 that came out in the '60s. Like it's been around a long time, and it's changed a lot along the way, but it still essentially just fires that same bullet. But yeah, that's another thing. That when you look at like just long term, it's like, why are governments doing this? Like that doesn't look as cool as that, and it's like, yeah, it's also like $3 billion cheaper. Also, you got to look at these things aren't just sitting around in a safe somewhere. People are actually shooting them. They're supposed to if they're going to be any good with them. So,
anyways, yeah.
Well,
anytime, yeah. Well, anytime a new gun pops up in Miami Vice, you got to talk about it. As a part of the show, as part of the accoutrement of the show, the style.
Stiltsville is what that's called.
Stiltsville. Huh, okay.
Did I say Stilt Village? I don't know what I said.
Stilt house or something.
Yeah, but anyway, that's where the big another insane shootout with the
Yeah.
Metro-Dade Miami police, where like 15 people are killed and like automatic weapons fire is just exchanged on right near a beach. It's like
Yeah,
this happens every day.
the boats guys come up to the stilt house, and then the a plane flies in, and it was a kind of a cool seaplane. I wonder if it was modern for the time. I have no idea, but I mean, it looked kind of like a neat plane. But then they start shooting at them, and like they kill a bunch of guys, and they pull up in the boat, and then like the other guys surrender, and then Weldon's like looking at all the dead bodies, looking for Tony Arcaro, but he's not there.
Okay. He's running around yelling,
Yeah.
Tony, up the dead bodies. That's not him. Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can read it as like, oh, that's a funny thing, but it's not supposed to be funny. It's like, oh no, this is just becoming sad. And we got a weird scene next where it's like we're in Castillo's office, and he's like meditating, and the phone's ringing, and like Castillo, as slowly as possible, moves towards the phone,
and he's sweating like crazy, pouring off of him. A lot of sweaty Castillo in Miami Vice.
And Weldon's on the phone, and he's like talking about like he's leaving, but it sounds like kind of like a suicide note or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's another scene where like Switek tells Tubbs that he's got a call and says that it's Weldon, and it's like, oh well, I'll take that call then. And then Weldon says that he caught Arcaro and he has him tied up, and then come to this place, and we can solve this once and for all. And then we get another like ride and music sequence that's it's still pretty cool. It's just nice when it's Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms.
It's considered the best music and one of the best music and driving montages in the entire Miami Vice arc. All the seasons, this is considered one of the best ones.
Yeah, I mean, that's up there with the In the Air of the Night. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, but here there's a bit more emotional heft behind it. So.
Well, yeah, because this is where the show. This is what I love about Miami Vice. This is where the show is starting to turn. There was some goofiness. There was some like, oh, these are quirky characters, and whatever. And then it's like, oh no, this is going somewhere bad. Like you're thinking, like they're going to show up. He's going to be hanging from a rope. They're going to find him shot.
Yeah.
Like he shot himself, or it's going to lead to like some mystery. No, it doesn't end up happening. But yeah.
Well, and they go into the building. It's almost played out like a horror movie where they're like pointing guns, and they're like, Weldon, the question mark, and then like he walks by, he's like, come up here, guys, and he just walks away, and they don't see him, and even like when Tubbs sees him, he's like pointing his gun at him. He's like, it's like, hey, like hold it there, Weldon, like we got you, and he's like, hey, he's over here, and then they go into a room, and it's empty, and he's like, hey, he's right here, and then like he pulls up a pipe, and like, what's going on? And he beats the wall open, and then there's the body of Arcaro's in there, and it's still like he's wearing the same clothes, and he has the newspaper which they showed earlier. It's like, oh, so Weldon killed him the day he got out of court or out of jail or whatever, or he got off on a technicality, and he killed him, hit him in the wall, and then he's just been like, and then like built up this thing about him that he's still out there for some reason, for some sort of mental defense mechanism, but we don't really know. This show's not really about like necessarily delving into that too much. It's more on the surface. Like Weldon's crazy, and this is why is that he's been guilty the whole time of just killing he's not an innocent man, but he illegally killed a man, so he murdered somebody. And then Castillo shows up with Weldon's partner, and then like he was like,
Marty Lang shows up.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I helped him build the wall, so now they're both going to jail.
Yeah, because he says to Crockett, he goes, he's my partner, of course I helped him, and Crockett was like, I understand, it's like, I mean, you're gonna go to prison for this.
It's another one of
the ghost knife of Callisto. You had to help them. This is what you do.
Yeah, it's kind of another one of those scenes where it's like it shines a mirror. It's like, well, this happened to Tubbs and Crockett. Which, trying to think about it, probably already has. But
I was going to say, there's been a few questionable shootouts already. So
Remember that time we went we went to like to an island in another country and shot a bunch of people and left like nothing happened.
yeah, got our passports stamped, and that was a weird vacation.
Remember we shot some people in New York and didn't tell the cops about it and then just left the next day.
Yeah, shot a helicopter out of the sky. It's like, well, we'll see you later. Thanks for your help. That's where we're like, oh, the New York cops we thought were kind of jerks. They're actually very right to be angry at these. Like, you're not going to come and burn down my city. You know?
Oh yeah, and they just blew up a building. They just commit a terrorist act and act like nothing happens.
Yeah, they burn a building down. It's like, oh, this is police work.
Yeah, but they didn't murder anybody, so you know,
no,
that's one step too far.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we freeze frame that's in the episode. So yeah, it was a very interesting episode, pretty good. So
yeah, this is a top 10 right here.
Yeah, it's probably the best one of the season so far. So
yeah, it's considered one of the best of all the arc.
Okay.
Mainly because of like the just how the guy acted and how it ended up is like, yeah, you always knew that was going to happen. It didn't like come out of the blue, but you also didn't really want it to happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, I regret that this man's life was destroyed because our legal system couldn't prosecute this guy, so he just takes it into his, and now two lives are destroyed.
Yeah.
But
it seems, because they talk about like it took him 3 years to take that guy down, and then it was just like let off on a technicality. So yeah. And there's like, you can't. You're telling me those 3 years I spent on this is worthless? It's like, I can't accept that. So he kills the guy, puts him away, goes to a mental hospital to forget about it, and then builds a super crime computer, which he destroys for some reason.
Yeah, that computer, I actually looked it up because it's in like the trivia. Like that computer debuted at some technology show in Chicago like earlier that year. It's like an Amiga something or another.
Probably Amiga 64 maybe.
I don't know, what was it called?
Or it's just Amiga.
Yeah. Oh no, it was called Lorraine. It was an Amiga prototype.
I'm thinking of the Commodore 64. Yeah, the Amiga was differently. Never mind.
Yeah, it was actually called Lorraine at the electronics show in Chicago. And they just kept that because they thought
it was advertisement. They gave us the computer.
Yes, and interestingly enough, Dennis Hopper was supposed to play that character in this that McGill did, but he pulled out because he had to
do more drugs.
I don't know. I don't know what the deal. Why Dennis? It would have been very memorable if Dennis Hopper was in it, or it wouldn't have been. Never know with him.
Did they not hire him for another character later on?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
We'll find out.
Usually, if you pull out like, because I the way it was described, now I don't know if this is true. Because again, we talked about earlier. It's like Hollywood is full of storytellers who tell stories, but literally Bruce McGill was given the script 24 hours before shooting started because that's how quickly Dennis Hopper pulled out like the day before or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. So they say he like had to improvise a lot of the like crazy characters and stuff.
Yeah. Which is just him quoting movie lines, but
yeah. It's just like, well, he was supposed to act nuts, as I understand, and it was like, well, that's his nuts. That's his version of nuts. I think they wanted nuts like blue velvet nuts. That's why they hired Dennis Hopper. You know, that'd be weird if he was like in the Cadillac with his arms out, like baby wants to, you know the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been. But yeah, I do know that is true, but I don't know about the timeline. I mean, I don't know that it's true. I would have been 10 years old when they made this, but I know that's like been in the trivia several times that like Dennis Hopper was supposed to play him.
Yeah.
And Bruce McGill had to come bail him out.
Well, if you liked what you heard, and how couldn't you? You can find this podcast at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect. You can also just use verhoeveneffect.com. I believe that's working again. You can rate our podcast whatever you want if you're allowed on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is whatever the highest one is. At VerhoevenEffect.com, we also have listener support where you can support this podcast on a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. We're also on Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook, Verhoeven Effect. We also have another podcast called American Greed Factory. You can find our YouTube channel there at American Greed Factory, where you can watch both that show and this show live and unedited. And we also have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect, this is Colin.
This is Nathan.
Goodbye, America.